Ancient civilizations often had some outlandish imaginations, and a lot of the time, they would describe wretched creatures who sought to bring destruction upon the world. From one-eyed monsters that were encountered in Homer's Odyssey, to gods that had the head of a beetle, here are the most terrifying mythical creatures. But first, quick shout out goes to Lut Irwin for leaving us this comment on our reasons why you shouldn't get a DNA ancestry test done. We're glad we can teach you about the risk of handing out your DNA to random companies. If you haven't checked out the video, be sure to check it out after this one. Number 12. The Chimera. This horrifying mythical creature comes to us from ancient Greece, and it's a monstrous hybrid creature which consists of 3 parts: a lion, a goat, and a snake. You can tell the lion's facial features and body type are dominant, while the goat is awkwardly rising from the back. The snake makes up its tail, and it took some serious imagination to come up with this thing. It's almost as if the 3 animals were placed into a time machine and managed to fuse together upon their return. In any case, it's first mentioned in Homer's Iliad, which described its ability to breathe fire. A sighting of a chimera was often taken as an omen for shipwrecks, natural disasters, and storms. In particular, volcano eruptions, which was a possible demise of the Minoan civilization. Some describe the Chimera as an offspring between a sphinx and an Nemean lion. Number 11. Leschi. Considered to be the protector of the forest, Leschi comes from the Slavic mythology and often portrayed as a humanoid creature which consists of various plants. Although he can grow to be gigantic sizes, he can change his size as he pleases. His beard and hair consist of vines and grass. He's often in the company of other animals such as wolves or bears, whom he has close bonds to. While he might sound like a gentle giant, he's actually quite hostile to humans, and he carries a large club made from a tree trunk. If one encounters Leschi, you're supposed to turn your clothing inside out and wear your shoes on the opposite foot. Now let's hope you don't encounter this thing, or you might look kinda foolish. Number 10. Cyclops. These one-eyed monsters are certainly something you don't want to mess around with. Often portrayed as a brute subspecies of human, the Cyclops are a race of giants with a single eye in the center of the face. Cyclops were first described by the Greek poet Hesiod, who described 3 Cyclops who worked as blacksmiths, builders, and craftsmen. Homer described them as sons of Poseidon, who worked as herdsmen or shepherds. Some believe these giants were responsible for building large ancient structures such as the walls at Mycenae. Cyclops were more thoroughly described during Homer's Odyssey, where they were basically described as man-slain ogres who slept in caves. Of course, the best way to kill a Cyclops, in case you encounter one, would be to stab it in the eye with a spear. Number 9. The Minotaur. In ancient Greek mythology, the Minotaur is depicted with the body of a man and the head of a bull. This creature was feared by many and lived in a cave maze-like dwelling constructed by the king Minos of Crete. The story goes that Minos prayed to Poseidon to send him a snow-white bull as a sign of support. Poseidon instructed him to slay the bull, but Minos found it to be beautiful and decided to keep it as a pet. For disobeying Poseidon, Minos was punished, and Poseidon made the king's wife fall in love with the white bull. They eventually mated, and the Minotaur was a horrifying hybrid offspring. Anyway, long story short, a man named Theseus bravely volunteered to slay the beast after it was devouring people and succeeded. The myth remains strong as it's been adapted into many different plays and even musicals. Number 8. Khepri. We all know Egypt was home to some crazy mythical creatures, but this one might be one you haven't heard of. The god Khepri was a man with the head of a scarab beetle. The beetle can be seen quite often in Egyptian mythology and existed in real life. They can be seen rolling balls of dung that they lay their eggs into. They thought the scarab beetle was special since they seemingly came out of nowhere, but in reality, they were just crawling out of dung on the floor. The Egyptians couldn't really tell where they were coming from, so they found them to be divine. This made the god Khepri the god of creation, the movement of the sun, and rebirth. They believe he pushed the sun through the sky as if it were a giant ball of dung. Number 7. The Kraken. The words "release the Kraken" have been uttered over and over again, but do people know actually what this thing is? The word Kraken is actually Scandinavian in origin and was never a part of Greek mythology, making you wonder why it was a part of the film Clash of the Titans in the first place. This legendary sea monster is said to dwell off the coast of Norway and Greenland, so be careful when sailing those waters. Reported sightings of the Kraken say it looks like a giant squid about the size of a blue whale, but it's often depicted in numerous ways. Other legends will often portray it as being hundreds of feet tall or even a mile high and will tower over boats, making people look like tiny little ants. Where could the origins of this massive sea monster have possibly come from? Some claim that the actual volcanic activity in the Iceland region is the cause for the tales of this giant sea monster. Could it be possible that the North Atlantic is really home to a giant prehistoric squid, capable of destroying ships at ease? Believe it or not, the science of the mythical creature is certainly worth looking into, and it may unlock some mysteries of the past. Number 6. The Hydra. This giant Greek and Roman mythical creature is a serpentine water monster that was described as having more than one head and being the protector of the underworld. The crazy thing about this monster was that each time one of its heads were cut off, it would regrow multiple heads in the exact location. Its breath was poisonous, and even its scent was deadly. An epic battle between Hercules and a Hydra took place, and the key to defeating one would be to burn its neck each time a head was decapitated to prevent it from regenerating. Hercules later on used poison arrows dipped in Hydra's blood to defeat other enemies in the future. What's interesting about this monster is that there's actually a miniature version that does exist in freshwater. This microorganism never shows any signs of aging, and they have tiny little tentacles that protrude from their body. Number 5. Trolls. Trolls are usually depicted as grotesque, uncivilized creatures that are unintelligent and extremely sensitive to sunlight, yet powerful with brute strength. According to Norse mythology, trolls tend to live under bridges in isolated mountains, caves, and anywhere that helps them avoid sunlight as much as possible. The size of the troll tends to vary from culture to culture, but in most cases, people try to avoid them as much as possible. Number 4. Mothman. While it's under some debate whether the Mothman is a cryptid or a possible species of alien, the state of West Virginia has had numerous sightings of this creature, and there was even a statue built in his honor at Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The sighting came on November 12, 1966, when 3 men were preparing a grave for burial. The next day, they spotted a humanoid winged creature from a nearby tree. A large number of sightings have happened in this place, known as the TNT area, which was a munitions plant during World War II. He's said to live within the vast complex of abandoned tunnels. Again in 1966, a young couple driving by here stated that a 7-foot Mothman with red eyes was standing right in front of their car. While they tried to drive in another direction, the Mothman followed them. Number 3. The Mongolian Death Worm. How afraid would you be if you were exploring the Gobi Desert of Mongolia and made contact with the mythical Mongolian Death Worm? A traveler and writer by the name of Roy Chapman Andrews came into a situation like that when he was visiting Mongolia. All the locals and even government officials were firm about the existence of the Mongolian Death Worm, but Roy wasn't convinced. He described how the locals could still give all the detailed accounts of what it looked like. They said it was a sausage-shaped worm about 2 feet long, had no head or legs, but it was poisonous. Just by touching the death worm, it would automatically bring an end to your life. While no outsiders to Mongolia have seen it yet, you have to wonder about the origins of where this cryptid came from, and if it's still out there, somewhere. Number 2. Ogopogo. Also known as Naitaka, this is a cryptid lake monster said to live in Lake Okanagan in British Columbia. It was first spotted by the natives of the land known as the First Nations since the 19th century. It's described as being 40 to 50 feet long and is known to strike fear into the locals. A cryptozoologist thought that it's possible that the tribes were misinterpreting common animals such as groups of eels, otters, and floating logs. Another sighting occurred in 1926 by about 30 people who all saw the exact same thing and believed it was a legendary creature. More people are just claiming that they're logs again after a mysterious video was made public in 2011. Could all these mysterious sightings really just be logs? Would it be too far-fetched to believe that a prehistoric creature undisturbed by man lives in an isolated lake? Ogopogo has become a hit in pop culture, especially in the local area. And number 1. Sobek. The Nile River can be home to some dangerous animals such as hippos, snakes, and oh yeah, crocodiles. Everyone meet your reptilian ancient leader known as Sobek. He's often associated with pharaonic power, fertility, military strength, and has magical powers to protect Egypt from evil. This deity gained the most power during the Middle Kingdom under the rule of Amenemhotep III. It was at this time where his head sort of began to fuse with a falcon head of Ra. But he lives up to his fierce reputation of being a crocodile and all. It's said that he loves to rob, doesn't mind eating people, and can be quite large and violent. However, he's said to have somewhat of a soft side to him, and he helped out Isis after the death of her husband Osiris. Due to his godlike status, it made crocodiles of the Nile sacred, and they were even mummified in many cases. So what'd you guys think of that video? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my channel over here, American Eye. We'll see you there.